Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am joined by Shannon from the Detour Co. Sorry, Rebecca, Shannon is tomorrow. I knew, you know what I was thinking? I was like, I'm going to make that mistake because I was just looking at her notes and I knew it. So, anyways, you guys, I am with Rebecca from the Detour Co. And she has her own skincare line and has actually had a pretty lengthy entrepreneurial journey, much like all of us. So, I'm excited to hop into the conversation today. And she has a lot of really good kind of tidbits about pivoting, about following the decisions and making changes, inventory, business, all of the things in between. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Could you just take a couple minutes and maybe introduce yourself and then tell us about the Detour Co? I'm actually really intrigued about the name too.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you kind of alluded to, I've been an entrepreneur for a while. I actually started out by hosting retreats called A Woman's Return. They were an opportunity for
Mm.
moms to step away from their families and return to the woman they are. That had to shift a lot in 2020. So I brought it online. I had an online meditation community. I'm a Reiki master who teaches yoga and meditation. And through all of this, I was really just creating skincare for myself and my family. And then after my second child was born, we made a big move and we moved from London, Ontario to Gravenhurst, Ontario in Muskoka. And my time was so different, like the way that the kids needed
Mhm.
me, being in a new community, so much had changed. And on a whim, I just went out looking for great skincare and couldn't find anything that met my standards. So my husband was like, why don't you try to sell the stuff that you know how to make? And I
Mhm.
literally just set up at a farmer's market like, does anybody want this? And to my surprise, they did. And over the last 4 years, 4.5 years or so, so much has changed for myself, my family, and my business. And the name itself is
Mhm.
actually my husband and I have traveled a lot. So we traveled around the world twice. Our
Mhm.
honeymoon was a 14-month adventure around the world. And through all of these adventures, we obviously found ourselves in unexpected places a lot of the time. Things don't go to plan when you're traveling that long term on that budget. And
Yeah.
so to kind of embrace it all, we started to joke, it's just another detour when things would go wrong or would go awry or unexpectedly. And that lighthearted approach to life has really served me well. So it felt like a really suitable name for the brand since this in itself is never something I really saw for myself.
Yeah, and it almost feels like because when we were chatting yesterday, you talked about how you loved what you were doing before with your women's retreats, etc., but that you needed to make the pivot simply because your life with the kids, it was like a service-based business didn't fit into it. So it almost feels like your business is a bit of a detour, right? And I love
Yeah.
that. If we only followed all of those detours, right? One thing you said was that you couldn't find something that matched your standards and what you were looking for. What does that mean? Because I imagine you live in Muskoka, which is a pretty affluent area, and I would imagine they have a number of different like skincare lines there, and that you can get kind of all the regular stuff. But tell me about like what sets your skincare apart.
So that's what I thought too. I was like, I'm moving to Muskoka. People live in Muskoka and love nature. There must be tons of great natural, truly natural skincare brands.
Yeah.
And when I say truly natural, I mean ingredients from the land, not the lab. All of my
Hmm.
ingredients are earth grown. They come from the soil at some point. There's
Hmm.
minimal processing along the way. They're cold pressed, they're single origin. I look for very high quality natural ingredients, oils and butters and plants. And the other thing is, I didn't want it to be watered down. Too many lotions have water as the first ingredient, and I'm sorry, but that comes out of your tap. You don't need to pay for it in your skincare.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot more about that water piece and how, like, just so many elements that make less water actually more appealing in your skincare.
Yeah, and our skin needs hydration. There's no doubt about that. But hydration can be done very differently. Like my toner has no water in it. It's chamomile hydrosol, it's aloe juice, it's witch hazel. Again, it's derived from these botanicals that are so much more nutrient rich and receptive for your skin.
I love that. So, how did you test your idea then? You said you did markets. What came next?
People started asking me questions. Oh, could you make a magnesium spray? Have you ever made a face cream with honey? Was something that completely changed my brand because I started just selling body butter, bug spray, and sun cream. Those are the things I knew how to make and had been using for my family. But the conversations I got to have at the market with my customers or just with random people walking by was so magical. I didn't realize at the time, but starting a business at farmers markets in Muskoka is like the jackpot because everyone comes here. So I met people from all over
Yeah.
Ontario, all over Canada, all over the world. I got to speak to them about what they want or don't want in their skincare, what their understanding is of the products and their skin. And those conversations led to new product formulations and really changed the direction of the brand.
You must have been just like running in those early days, right? Like just trying new things, formulating new products, like hitting those events and like learning. It must have just been a whirlwind.
It absolutely was. I have no idea. Like that first year, neither of my kids were, I started this business with like a 6 month old and a 3-year-old. So I
The
don't
easy
know.
years, right?
I genuinely don't know. Like I was just putting stuff together after bedtime and showing up at markets when I could. It really was a whirlwind, but what I loved about that was just there was so much room for error. I could play, I could try things. If they worked, I'd keep doing it. If it didn't, I would stop. And I could take an idea and turn it into reality so quickly. As the brand has grown, there's a lot more space between idea and implementation. So those early years were just, they were so much fun and a little chaotic, but I loved it.
And if you were talking to a brand new entrepreneur, let's use product based, is that the kind of like testing that you would recommend? Like I feel like you learned so much and you learned it in a hands-on way and it didn't have to be in stone until you were ready for it to be in stone.
It certainly worked for me as a handmade brand. I think if you're going to market differently through manufacturers and you have different capital that you're investing in different ways, there might be a different approach. But for someone like me that bootstrapped my business and was just buying ingredients on the fly and growing my business alongside my community, absolutely. Like it was so beneficial to both me and my consumers.
Love that. Yesterday, when we were chatting, you talked a lot about some big pivots that you've had to make, and that your ability to kind of like pivot and move and make decisions has been one of the things that has led to the success of your brand. And you even mentioned that you had considered kind of, you know, not making it yourself. Can you kind of chat to some of those things?
For sure. I mean, I hear all this business advice about like building a business that doesn't require you. You know, you don't want to be the
Mhm.
bottleneck of your brand. And so I thought, I want to be in as many retailers as possible. I want as many people to use my products as possible. And the way to scale and hit those targets would be to no longer manufacture my
Mhm.
product because of the
That makes
reality of my
sense.
life. Yeah, and the time that I have. So I did go down the path of seeking manufacturers. I spoke to a couple of different Canadian options, and I actually got to the point of signing an NDA and passing over my formulation, and I couldn't do it. So I went down this whole path, spent months and months researching, having conversations, only to realize that's not actually what I wanted. I do want to keep this a handmade brand, but I had to go down that path to really
Mhm.
explore that and figure out what was important to me and the direction I saw this all going.
I kind of think that makes total sense because had you not done that level of research, had you not like actually taken steps towards doing it, you always would have wondered if that made the most sense in scaling your brand.
Yeah, well, and like I've said, I've built this brand with my community.
Hmm.
And I just feel like there's a disconnect there, especially as somebody who says my products come from the land, not the lab. It was not really in alignment with my values. But and kind of looping back to like those quick decisions,
Hmm.
it's good to acknowledge there's times to draw out your decision, take your time, go through the process, and trust like the decisions you're making, whether it's from a logical or an intuitive standpoint. But there's so many times in business when we can make quick decisions. You can change the messaging of your brand. You can change the images that you're using. You can change your website. You can change so many things so quickly. And I think a lot of business owners sit on these ideas And then it kind of creates resentment because they feel like they're running a brand that doesn't actually speak to them anymore because they get stuck in like, this is the brand I'm running. Let's stay true to that. But businesses are meant to evolve.
Mhm.
And in every change that I've made, it's actually made my brand messaging and the people that I support so much clearer. I'm able to help more people because I've been able to change gears and cater to the people that really need my help.
I think it creates a lot of burnout too, right? When we have all of these ideas just like swimming around in our heads and we don't make those decisions and we don't like move the way that we're meant to move in business, right? When we try to like stay rooted to one thing. What are some of the biggest pivots that you've made in the last little while?
Well, right now, so I started my business by selling, like I said, bug spray at farmers markets. That put my brand on the map, and I am not doing that this year for the very first time.
Oh, tell me about that.
That's a huge decision. And I went into last summer thinking, I don't know if I need to be here anymore. And then after looking at some numbers, seeing my experience, both personally and professionally, I ended that year knowing I'm not going to do this again. And so I made the decision in September for myself, for my business, and played with it in my head for a really long time. And it's now that I'm implementing it that I actually have this kind of sentimental attachment to it. It's really tough to
Yeah.
leave a piece of your business behind that literally got you to where you are.
Yeah, like it was such a building block to where your
Yeah.
business is today. But I can imagine like when you get to that other side of like the sentimental piece and the probably some overthinking if this is the wrong decision, but it's going to free up a lot of time and energy for you.
It absolutely will. And it's proof that the concept works. I decided I want to show up to as many events as I possibly can to create brand exposure. But the
Yeah.
goal was always build an online brand. And
Mhm.
I've done that. Now, what's interesting is I started this business thinking I'm making natural alternative to conventional skincare so that families feel safe bringing these products into their home. What happened along the way is I created a face care brand. So the Detour Co is now a Canadian face care brand that helps women bring their skin back to balance naturally. And shifting that messaging and the product line over the years has it's been many moving pieces, but it's something that I now feel so much more confident in. And I'm really excited to not be doing markets and selling specifically summer skincare to families because I get to go all in on what the brand actually is becoming.
Yeah, and that's just the exact like message, right? Like when you are utilizing your time and energy for one thing, it does mean that you're not doing something else, right? Like whenever you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so you have to decide what makes the most sense for your brand.
100%. And you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah, especially with a brand like this. And I have a question for you because you were talking about scaling and you went down that route. And what does success in your brand look like? Because I think like we're small businesses, right? And success doesn't necessarily mean that you are on shelves in places or you have a billion like customers. Like what does success mean to you?
That's a really great question for
That was a
me
really
right
loaded question,
now.
I know.
Yeah. Right now, I want to be able to live the life I want. My kids are young. I want to be with them. I'm building this business as part of a long game.
Mhm.
I didn't hit $1 million in my first year. Like those big
No.
targets. It's so interesting because there are some people that are able to build something and scale something very quickly, but I guess I'm taking my time. I'm allowing myself to grow slowly in a way that honors my capacity and still prioritizes my time with my family. Is the
It probably
business continue?
also honors your commitment to to the actual products that you're creating. Because if you were to be, putting the pedal to the metal, I would imagine that certain tiny elements would not be as, you know, at the forefront.
For sure. Not to mention the brand is all about women creating space for themselves.
Hmm.
If I
So if
was
you're not
running,
doing that,
oh, like I do, but if I was scaling quickly, maybe I wouldn't be. So
Mhm.
it's all about like my personal values, the brand values, and honoring all of it along the way and continuing to grow and profit in this business.
You said something yesterday about that you believe skincare is like self-respect, and I would love you to talk to that.
Well, that goes back to my early days of motherhood when I just was a shell of a human, empty, lonely, afraid. It was a dark time. And I, I joke that there was like a little voice in my head that said, you need something that's just for you. And then the little voice said, maybe you should wash your face. And it was face care that brought me back to life. The act of not just washing, but moisturizing and massaging my face. At the end of the day, I could look back and know I did something that was just for me. But the gift that came from that, that was unexpected, is the more time I started to give to myself, the more time I wanted for myself. Because it's
Mhm.
those moments where I was able to disconnect from the loud noises of the world and
Mhm.
reconnect to the voice within me. What do I want? Who am I? How can I create a life I love? Those quiet and slow moments with myself have allowed me to build something that I absolutely adore.
I love that. Um, you said yesterday something along the lines of like you've had some of the bigger pivots that you've made have been changing your product line, letting go of some products and stuff. Like, how do you make those kinds of decisions? Like, how do you put your CEO hat on and decide what stays and what goes?
A lot of numbers.
Yeah, tell
What's
me about that's
selling?
what I wanted you to say. Tell me what, like, because I think numbers is something that a lot of people, especially solopreneurs, struggle with because we become very emotionally attached to our product lines and the original vision that we had for things. So numbers almost take that, they should take that emotional element out of it. How do you do that?
You look at your best sellers, you look at your worst sellers, you figure out what you really want. So not selling bug spray is an example of that. That makes me 10 to 20K a year. Walking away
Hmm.
from that is not an easy decision because it does sell very well for 2 months of the year.
Hmm.
So moving away from that allows me to be more of an evergreen brand because I can talk about the same products every day and not have to distract myself and my customers for 2 months of the year.
That makes
Um,
sense.
but another thing that's kind of been fun to play with is a deodorant that I formulated. I call it Pit Paste. It's designed for sensitive skin. It doesn't have baking soda. And it is one of those things that I formulated in the early years while talking to people about what you don't want, what you do want, what works and what doesn't work. And I must have gone through 20 different iterations of this deodorant to land on the one I have. And it's something that I believe in and have held on to, even when it didn't make sense on like my spreadsheets. And it's now growing and becoming more popular. So sometimes you have to look at the numbers and say, for example, there was like a calendula balm that I used to make,
Mhm.
and it just, the odd person would buy it and they really loved it. But I
Like it
can't
was a
make,
really good
yeah,
product. It just wasn't
but you
universal.
can't make something that only 20 people buy a year. That's just not
Especially
a
when
good
I
way
would
to run.
imagine you have a shelf life when you're using all natural products.
Yes, absolutely. So there's the ones that are just clearly not selling well, drop those. There's the ones that are going to be a little bit more strategic in this sells well, but not in the way that's building the brand I want. And
Hmm.
then there's the ones that you might want, there's value there, so you can nurture it and see if it grows. They're
Hmm.
all different approaches.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Okay, so pretend I'm a brand new entrepreneur. I've got a really good idea. I'm a handmaid because this is your expertise. Like, what are your top pieces of advice you're going to give me for getting started?
What's your product?
Okay. I don't know. What should my product? Let's pretend that I make jewelry.
Okay, I love that. Jewelry is awesome. Okay. Um,
Or I
you
make
have to get
candles.
out
I don't
there.
care what I make. You tell me.
Okay, well, you can't sell anything if people don't know you exist. So get out there somehow and maybe don't rely on social media as much as social media tells you to rely on social media. Go and chat with boutiques, go and show up at networking events. You can sell at farmers markets, but you can also sell at gift shops. You can do pop-ups at boutiques. Get your brand, your products in front of the people who are going to buy it. When we are choosing our events and where we show up, be so intentional. I only go to events if I know people are there to spend money. Otherwise, I need to be with my family.
100%. And you always have to look at that as the decision, right? What makes the most sense? You nailed it there because I think that we think social media is the thing that's going to be like to grow our audience and grow our customer base. But I actually think it's what you do outside of social media and drive people back to your social media that kind of makes that like web work. And the most successful small businesses that I'm talking to, they look like it's social media that's doing the job because it's beautiful and it's polished and it's engaging, but it's not social media that's doing the job. It's them with their feet on the pavement in the beginning.
Yeah, because we live in a world where people want to know who they're buying from. And I will even do this. I'll look
Hmm.
at a brand and I'll be like, I don't know who runs that. And I'll walk away. So the
Hmm.
more people you can talk to and connect with in real life, the better. The other thing is collaborating in some way. So if you do jewelry, can you team up with a candle company or a clothing brand? I know a jewelry company that now is on like runways because they decided to go the fashion route and they collaborated with fashion brands to be in their marketing and on the runway with the models and whatever. So what is your brand? You know, who are you catering to and how can you go connect with them more in real life?
Yeah. Well, and how can you always be putting yourself and your products in front of brand new audiences, right? Like not hoping the audience comes to you, but you go to the audience.
Yeah, 100%. Spas would
100%.
be another good one for jewelry. Jewelry is fun because people see it and buy it. They're like, I like this, I want it.
It's a very, very visual and sometimes simple purchase as opposed to maybe a skincare.
Yeah, skincare is a little bit more intimate. People want to know,
Hmm.
how does it smell? How does it feel? Will this work for me? So
Hmm.
knowing your brand, knowing your customers, and making the decisions that fall in line with those things.
Yeah. Would you say that you have a particular target market that your skincare appeals most to?
Right now, I am mostly speaking to women in their 40s who were using something that is no longer working for them anymore. Their hormones have gone all over the place. They don't recognize
Mhm.
their body, they don't recognize themselves, and they have more time for themselves than they used to. You know, they're kind of, a lot of them are beyond the younger years of having kids or maybe don't have kids. And they have that desire to come back to themselves. And that's who I speak to, people that want to spend more time with themselves, figure out who they are, what they want, and create the courage to actually go and create a life you love.
That's amazing. So, if someone wants to seek you out, which I'm sure a lot of people will, where is the best place to find you? Where are the best places to find you?
I will say Instagram. It's where I do a lot of tutorials talking about my products and this philosophy that you hear me talk about, embracing the unexpected, creating more intentional time for yourself. But my email list is a wonderful place to be because you're always going to get exclusive access to different bundles and discounts. And I share more pieces of my story and my feelings along the way there too.
Well, and I think you have something really interesting on your website. I signed up for it yesterday. What was it?
The free face massage guide.
Yes. So I was like,
Yes.
this is really interesting because I've been hearing a lot more about our lymphatic system and facial massage and all those elements. And I wondered if that kind of came into play there.
Absolutely, because face massage is really like my gateway to women spending more time with themselves because it's going to support your skin, but also your soul. The way that you touch your face can actually calm your nervous system and it can really counteract those signs of aging, like wrinkles and collagen. I have an entire workshop that I teach called Skincare Social, where we talk about the fascia and the face and what we hold and how we can release it and how to support your skin as you're aging through face massage. I love it so much. So the free face massage guide is kind of an intro to that.
I love that. And what's your website again?
Thedetourco.com.
Perfect. And so, how interesting is that? That yes, you've been on a number of detours in life and in business, but that you are, and I think about this all the time too, because I used to be a full-time teacher, but we do bring all of those elements from all the journeys that we've been on in life into our current journey, right? Like the experiences that you've had and who you are, you're now weaving into the skincare line too, which is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, you totally nailed it because I do feel like everything I've ever done is serving a purpose in what I now do.
Yeah, and it really is. And I can even see that through this like one simple conversation, which is pretty amazing.
Ah, thanks. I
Thank you
feel
so
so
much for doing
lucky.
this with me. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.